I'd like to call the monthly meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority to order. It's Thursday, October 26, 2023, and it is 5 p.m. First item on the agenda following the call to order is a report on the pension report. And I understand that's going to be done via Zoom?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Hi, how are you?
Just well, Dr.
Good. Okay, so let's see. Okay, hold on one moment, just getting our projector up and running. All right, so I click start here. Okay. Oh, she's in.
Yeah, way over to the right next to her face.
Yep, she's
Down,
there.
down, down.
You go there?
No, next
No, yeah, hit that maybe.
No, it says exit minimize video, that one.
Yeah, hit
Okay.
that, maybe makes it bigger. There
That
you
makes
go.
it bigger, okay.
Change the video.
Now, maximize that too.
This one?
Yep.
Hey, there we go.
Get rid of you.
Yeah, no, gotta get rid of me. Okay. All right, so how are we gonna put their video up? I mean, their slideshows.
They should be able to let them share the screen.
Oh, okay.
Share.
All right, so they were all set. Do you wanna share your screen?
Sure. Yep. Let me do that. Oh, it says
Oh.
participant screen sharing is disabled by the host.
Go into security maybe? Share screen.
Yeah, under the share screen, you should have control there.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Piece of
Try that.
Okay, try that.
Oh, there we go. All right.
All right, so can I minimize this or?
Hey.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Can everyone see the pension plan with our NIHEART branding on the screen?
Can't see, they turn the lights off.
Some of us would rather read it instead of looking at the screen.
Can't see it, Gina, they turn the lights off.
I know.
October 26th, oh my God.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Is everyone ready? Sorry, it's a
Yeah.
little hard to hear. I just want to make sure everyone is ready
Yep,
for it.
yes, we're ready.
They can't hear us.
Oh, they can't hear us?
Right there.
Working. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, sorry about that. Might be just the distance.
You can shut off our camera then.
So, hello everyone. Nice to meet you virtually. Before we get into this, Jen and I just wanted to take a minute to introduce ourselves since this is our first time joining you for your board meeting. So my name's Jennifer Street. My last name might be changed next time we communicate though. I did just get married in August and I'm going through that paperwork right now, but I am a credentialed actuary on the plan. I've been working with NIHEART for almost 1.5 years now, but have about 8.5 years working in the pension world. And Jen, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the other credential actuary on the plan. I've been at NIHEART for about 3 years now, and prior to NIHEART, I was at Gallagher for 15 years. And then we have one other member on our team that you might have seen her name on emails, Diana. She's preparing for one of our actuary exams next week, so she's in study mode right now, so he wasn't able to make it, but nice to meet you guys virtually.
So with that, we'll go to our next slide, and please feel free to speak up at any questions. We've just prepared a high-level summary here, but if there's certain details you'd like to get into, we're more than happy to answer those. But the first thing we wanted to address was this internal transition. So NIHART is a part of Future Plan where your prior work was done, and as a whole, Future Plan did some internal self-assessment and determined that your plan's needs are best suited from the actuaries and the work that we do at NIHART. So as part of that transition, we did do a successful match to the prior signing actuaries 22 valuation report while transitioning to a slightly more robust valuation software. And then there's a little background here on NIHART, where our firm is headquartered, our employees, and the work that we do. But we don't need to get too deep into those details for today's call. Turning to our slide 3, some high-level highlights of the 2023 valuation results. So assets performed better than expected. The expected return in last year's report was 7.5%, and the return on market value during the plan year to fiscal year end 2023 was about 11.6%. Regarding the plan demographics, there was no movement from the 22 plan counts, so no changes in your actives or your retirees. But the plan funded status did increase, looking at the current year results, from 80% to about 88.5%. And part of this is due to the gain we saw on the assets returning higher than expected. And then we also had a slight gain on your liabilities by reflecting an updated mortality assumption to a more recently released and generally accepted table for public plans. So that slightly decreased your liability there. Your recommended contribution as a result of the improved funded status decreased to about $112,000 when valuing that calculation using the expected return of 7.5%, and the alternative contribution decreased to $153,000, which is calculated using a slightly more conservative long-term rate of return of 6.5%. The other item that happened during this year are new ESOP requirements, which Jen will get into in a couple of slides. So that was included as part of your report that we sent over last week. And then looking ahead, there was a lump sum payment in September, so that will be reflected in next year's valuation results. We are planning to finalize and issue the GASB reports in the coming weeks. We're having a little difficulty with our systems to upload historical information that needs to be included in the reporting, so we're trying to work with IT there to get that all set up. And then finally, finalizing the participant benefit statements for the 5 remaining actives. We have those drafted and they're in review, so we hope to get that over in the next week or so. Then moving to slide 4, we just wanted to do a quick summary of demographics over the past few years. So the plan has been frozen since 2012, so you only will be seeing your population decreasing over time, and there hasn't been much movement since the 21 valuation. There is a lump sum payment between the 21 and 22 valuations, and again, as I mentioned, no status changes from 22 to 23, but we do expect at least one lump sum to be paid and reflected prior to the 24 valuation. The age of your participants have just been increasing over the years, with your active group, the six actives as of 7/1/23 having an average age of about 58.5, average service of about 26.5 years, and average salary just under $90,000. And as a reminder, the benefit formula provides for roughly 45% or so for a participant working 25 years. So that is a pretty generous benefit that you're providing to your active active employees that are eligible for the plan and setting them up for a pretty good replacement income in retirement when they do choose to retire. On the next slide, slide 5 here, just covering asset movement in the last 5 years. So from the prior valuation, the market value of assets was about 3.3 million. About $250,000 was put into the plan through employer contributions, and about 200,000 was paid out. The plan returned positive 380,000, coming to about 3.7 million as the 2023 plan year. You can see in our graphs on the right side the change in market value of assets over the past few years, with a dip between 21 and 22, mostly due to the negative rate of return that year. But the average return for the last 3 years has been about 7.7%. So in line with the long-term 7.5% rate of return, and over the last 5 years has been about 6.4%. So that does give us a good range and a good gut check of showing, your recommended contribution at both 7.5% as well as 6.5% as a more conservative approach. So then on slide 6 here, looking at the valuation results, comparing the prior year to the current year, and liabilities increased marginally to about $4,177,000, with the bigger increase being, being seen in your market value of assets up to just under 3.7 million. And that movement cut your unfunded liability in half, a little less than in half. So from 823,000 down to about 485,000 of unfunded liability. As I mentioned, your funded percentage did increase to 88.4% over the last plan year. And then looking below here, we have a comparison of the present value of future benefits. So all benefits expected to be earned throughout the lifetime of your plan demographics, with a dollar amount as of 7/1/2023. That amount didn't increase too substantially, up to $4,383,000. And that amount, it drives your recommended contribution. So we did want to include that in our results because that is one of the key players in the calculation of your recommended contribution. And as mentioned, the recommended contribution, valued with the 7.5% interest rate, dropped down to $112,000, and the alternative contribution, using that 6.5 long-term rate of return assumption, dropped to about $153,000. And then looking at last year, the actual contributions that you paid fell in between, over the alternative contribution. So you paid, again, about $250,000 there on a monthly basis, which is a little above the alternative recommendation of about $220,000 last year. So, does someone have a question?
No.
Nope.
No questions? Oh, sorry. So again, just wanting to drive home that the main reason for the decrease in the recommended contribution calculations here are from the increase in the market value of assets, outweighing the very marginal increase in the present value of future benefits that we see. But with that, I believe Jen is going to slide in here to talk about the ASOP requirement that I mentioned a few slides back.
Yeah, so this is more of a, I guess you could think of it as more of a disclosure type item, but we have wanted to kind of warn clients that they're going to be seeing this in their reports going forward, just so you're not surprised. So we have kind of our governing body, if you will, of actuaries, kind of set some standards that we have to follow. So in the funding report, and if you want to go to the next slide, this is probably the more important one. So there's this liability calculation that we now have to show. They refer to it as LD-ROM. It's basically where you're showing, so for your kind of main liabilities, we're using that 7.5% interest. So now they want us to show more of a mark-to-market kind of a liability, where if you invested your entire portfolio just in corporate bond type investments, really, safe investments, what it would look like. So right now the rates are actually kind of at his peak right now compared to what they have been in the past. So they're sitting right around 5% currently. But if you look 2-3 years back, they've been as low as 2%, which was insane. Never had seen anything like that in my career. So hopefully we've put that behind us and we're gonna stay at these higher rates. So it's going from that 7.5% interest down to that 5% interest. So basically we were showing about a $4.1 million liability for kind of your base liability. And now if you look in if you have that full funding report, I think it's 27 pages. If you look on the very last page, we're showing this alternative liability. And it brings your liability from 4.1 up to 4.8, which is kind of the scary part of why we wanted to warn clients about it. So it's just for informational purposes. It's similar to if you were going to if you decided you wanted to get rid of the plan completely at some point and, pay everyone out, that 4.8 million would be more of a kind of a target if you're getting close to wanting to terminate the plan and get rid of it. So that's kind of why we're showing that. So yeah, it's a little scary to see that higher liability, but we try to put a lot of good language about, this is information only, it doesn't affect your contribution, doesn't affect how you're funding the plan. So that's, if anyone reads all the way through the whole entire report, the last page has the new disclosure on it. And then the other piece that isn't really applicable to your plan on the next slide is this reasonableness assessment that we now have to do on the contributions. And since you guys are, funded, you're responsible, have a sufficiently short period that you're, paying off that unfunded liability that's sitting out there. So we didn't have to make an additional disclosure on this piece. If you were using a really long amortization, like if you had a 30-year amortization, or if you weren't funding towards the 100%, then some of our clients have had to make this extra disclosure saying, we don't really think that contribution policy is reasonable. But for you guys, you're being conservative and we think your calculations are reasonable. So just wanted to give some fair warning to clients about these new disclosures. So if anyone has any questions, let us know. I think that was the last piece that we wanted to cover. Is there any other things you want to talk about? Any other questions you guys have? Very exciting. You're so excited that you've been speechless. All right. Well, I think that was about all we wanted to cover. I guess we can turn it back over to you guys, or whoever's next.
Okay, I think we're all set. So no questions? No questions? No, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. We don't have any questions. We appreciate your presentation.
Thanks, guys. Just to say, if there are any questions in the future, Dan Hughes has both of our contact information. It's on the first page of the meeting material, so feel free to reach out with questions at any time, and we'd be happy to help.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
So, one comment about that,
Yeah.
which is, I have no problem with people doing reports by Zoom, but I think they need to invest in a quality microphone. That was really intolerant from my standpoint.
I myself don't like Zoom presentations unless we have to do them for public health reasons. Or we'd rather see the people in person, even though it's.
Well, I have no problem, they don't have to come from 40 minutes or an hour
Right,
away.
yeah, not for this
But
person.
invest in a microphone that gives you a good quality sound reproduction. Neither of them had that.
It's a good point.
And I don't know why she spent all the time on something that doesn't apply to our plan.
That makes at least two of us. Any other comments on the report? Public input. Don't see any members of the public here tonight, so we move on to minutes. First one is approval of minutes. The first one is on the policy committee from September 28th.
Move they be approved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Next is the minutes from the last board meeting of September 28th.
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous on approval of the minutes. Move to the executive director's report. Mr. Kuchus.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The protected pipeline project, we did plant the trees. The mayor is happy with the plantings, so we're good up at Kent Heights. So we're all wrapped up with phase one. For phase two, we did receive the 30% level design plans from the time I had written my memo. So we received them earlier this week for the revised route alignment, so we're reviewing those now. The blending and water quality report is still under review by DOH. Through the type study that was completed by Beta regarding the 10-mile river crossing, we determined that the east side was most advantageous, and so then moving forward with the geotech work that's going to be needed to design the bridge crossing at the 10-mile river at that location. And in conjunction with that, there is a USGS stream gauge station nearby from the location of that. We had a meeting with them, and they seemed really easy to work with, provided we kind of keep them in the loop with the design work. So that was a good meeting with them. Pawtucket agreement, we've sent the comments back to them. I did have a conversation with their general manager last week. He was hoping to get that back to me. I was hoping this week, but I don't have it yet. So, but that's still moving along. The no change in the demolition work, so we're going to budget that for demolition for the plant buildings for next year. For the dam removal project, if you haven't been up on Schoolhouse Road, it's quite dramatic with the earthwork that's been going on. So even since I've written this memo, they removed actually a good portion of the upper dam. And they will be installing the bypass and coffer dam and the lower dam, I think next week. And they'll start working on the lower dam as well. But that's moving along very well. And as you all know, we received over $600,000 from the EPA, making our total grant monies over $3.4 million for the project. Meter replacements, still down to 12. Joe continues to work. Out of that 12, 8 of those are folks with radio health concerns, and 4 are people who are just not around. Continue to work on that, and we're looking at some type of plan to address the 8 meters for the radio folks. Water purchases were a little lower than last year, and slightly under than the prior 5-year average. I've got graphs attached. We've completed our fall hydrant flushing program. We've started our review, and we're actually pretty much done with our budget to present to the finance committee, which we're planning on doing for next month, and then to the full board at the December meeting. And we have employee agreements and contracts coming up. We've had some initial discussions with the union. There's still some time there. That contract expires until next May. And my 3 years is coming up on January 18th. Just to put it out there. I don't know what the next step is.
You buy waters for everybody, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to assess the way he said that his ears were coming up, the tenor in his voice and everything. I'm not sure what that meant.
Means you
Yeah,
get
no meaning
contract.
no meaning to it, but
Steve, have we gotten payments from East Providence at this point?
yes, we received the payments on the 30%. I'm strongly pushing Beta to get full 60% plans, at least along within the roadway portion of the project, so we can get them in their hands, because how the agreement is set up is that the reimbursement requests come in stages of when the plans are development of the plan. So you have 30%, 60%, 90s, and then fulls. So, yeah. The budget summaries of the projects look good as far as remaining budgets go. And that concludes my report.
But see, does that photo show the beginning of the dam removal?
Yes.
What will the end photo look like? Will that dam be completely gone?
No, it's going to be tapered down. It's going to be tapered down, and then it's going to be brought down to the level of the actual stream elevation. And so that would be almost like a 20-foot wide crossing, a 20 or 40-foot wide stream crossing there.
Are the two water elevations at different levels now, or are they at the same level, or?
It's all going to be the same. It's all going to be the same level once the dam is completely down. Yeah.
But when there's an opening, they will have to reach a point of being level? Is that how it works from an engineering viewpoint?
No, they're basically just trying to get it back to where it was, before the dam was actually built.
So the levels on both sides, the
Yeah.
water levels on both sides are
The
equal?
same.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know about tides and that type of thing.
Right.
Would that same thinking apply to the lower?
Yes.
dam too?
Yep. I mean, you can almost see from this photo, although the copy made this a little darker, but you can see the other side of Schoolhouse Road here. You can actually see the stream channel, the old stream channel. That's, once the reservoir is drained, you can see where the stream channel is, how it kind of meanders, meanders downstream.
I haven't discussed this with Steve or staff, but I myself am interested in going out to the site and seeing what's going on, and I'm just wondering if there'd be other board members who also would be interested in the mini tour, and we could arrange such. Is there any interest in other board members attending such?
I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Seeing maybe half the board members. I can talk about that.
Yeah.
Something.
Tomorrow's gonna be really nice. Tomorrow.
I have one question on phase one, that's closed out now?
We've got the trees in, we just have to do a final closeout, right?
Yeah, just administrative work.
What was left in the contingency?
Oh, we didn't exceed the project budget at all. The exact number I don't have, but
It was like $1 million.
we didn't even exceed all the line items to accrue all the costs that was in the bid. So
Okay, so where would you move that? I guess it's Dan's question to Dan. Where do you move that to? What's left over?
It's whatever slides in this year. I mean, it's whatever, we have some of the bond money with this last bond was kind of allocated towards that fund, that project too. So I would just say it would slide to phase 2 now, or if any one of these other projects starts flowing a little bit over, we'd float over to one of those other projects that was kind of included in that bond issue.
So it's your call to move it to where you see fit.
Yeah, whatever's left. I mean, we'll probably spend most of the bond money by the beginning to mid next year anyways.
It's been going to phase 2.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so we were using the bond to help pay for the construction for phase 1, now that that's done, right? And it came in, under budget or the construction cost.
I was just.
So we continue to fund the phase 2 design work under the bond, so,
The bonds, they're kind of little that way. We kind of put in what we're thinking we're going to use them for, but we don't really need, because they're private issues, we don't really need their permission to move it within those categories.
yeah.
Okay.
So just like Steve said, we've just been sliding it over to phase 2 until we kind of run out of the bond money. That's kind of the benefit of the private issue ones, that we're not really stuck with
Okay.
this. We can slide, but we still do slide it within what was kind of advertised as part of that bond issue. So, the renewals and the phase 2 and the Hope Street pump station.
Okay.
Getting back to that mini tour, and you said maybe tomorrow, but those who are interested in going, if we can do something tomorrow afternoon, maybe that would be the best thing to do. So after the meeting, we'll chat with Steve and see if that's possible. But I don't want to hold up the meeting right now. Mike?
Not much else to add, but I don't know if anyone came through Hope Street today, but the guys are busy in the system, and the work that they're actually performing that was performed today and will continue through the night is actually in support of the pump station project. So we have had some movement on that. We have a meeting tomorrow where we're going to get some response from the manufacturer, but we are trying to move certain components of that forward over the next few weeks, anticipating that we will be seeing some of these delayed issues resolve themselves. So by advancing as much of the underground as possible over the next few weeks in good weather, we hope we can do all internal work and wrap this thing up as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we got a new roof here, new gutters, so as you walk along the building, in the next
What do you mean by,
events,
what do you mean by the metal work will be installed? You talking about gutters and downspouts, or?
gutter, soffit panels down, yeah, actually the gutters were just recently done, but soffit panels, there is some metal work at the transition from the flat to the pitches, and that'll also be done. But yeah, just roofing now. So he has a little bit of metal work left, and that'll be completed over the next couple of weeks, and that project will be complete.
Okay. Any questions of Mike? Susan?
Also not much to report. This year's contractor, Walsh Construction, pretty much finishing up. They're in the last area that they'll be doing as part of this contract. And as I noted here, once they're done, we will have rehabilitated over 2 miles of pipe this year. So they did a good job. They were fast and efficient, and we were able to use the contingency to add more streets onto that contract. So they did quite a bit of work, and without too many issues.
Any questions of Susan? No. on to the finance report. Dan?
Alright. So we are up to September, 7 months in. If you look at page 4, I think it is, September versus September. The revenue's a little bit higher. That's due to those shifting of routes. We'll see that one more time in December, it's every 3 months. Revenue was a little bit higher, like 8.6% than it was last September. Overall consumption is down just slightly, so most of that is probably just the rate increase. Expenses are also a little lower, 2.28% lower. This is largely decreased water purchase, as Steve had mentioned. The professional fees are down for the month, just timing stuff, not a lot of legal and consulting fees going on this year. And those decreases were offset a little bit by administrative expenses being higher due to the pension contribution for 2020. For last year, it was about $14,000. For this year, it's about $25,000. It will go down next year. I already worked on that. When we look at the 7 months ended September, revenue is still up almost 7% versus last September. Again, most of that is the rate increase and some timing in there. The expenses are slightly higher, just less than 1%. Again, the increase in the administrative expenses is the pension amount that we pay every month. There's an increase in salary and wages operations, which has been the same thing I've been discussing the last couple of months. We had some people that were either terminated and then replaced later on or out on leave last year. So that's why it looks like we didn't really have any increase in real people. It was just increase in hours due to somebody being in those positions all year this year. Those increases were again offset by decreased water purchases of about $158,000 through September. Actual versus budget, we're still doing pretty good here. Revenue is actually over budget, just over 13%, and that's with the actual usage being a little bit higher, even though it's down a little bit higher than we budgeted. And as I mentioned before, I expect that to kind of level off and get a little closer as the rest of the year goes on. The expenses are under budget, just under 8.5%, which is consistent with what I've been for the last couple months. The 3 largest areas under budget are professional fees, purchase of water, and operations maintenance. Again, the professional fees, we just had in consulting costs this year than we budgeted for. The water's decreased as a result of the wetter, cooler summer. Very wet summer, 16 out of 20 weekends. And operations maintenance as well, we're just due to timing. Pages 7 through 9 are the dollars billed and gallons delivered. You can see the dollars billed is a slight increase of 6.28%. And the gallons delivered is down about almost 0.5%, which again, the consumption's been down. We anticipate that it's going to show for the rest of the year. It should level off, I think, for August, September, October, we might see a little bit. In November, December, kind of flatten out. We were just doing laundry and dishes at that point in time. So far for this year, really, April through August, every month was lower than the prior year. It's just with March and September that were higher than the previous March and September. Those really have a lot to do with the shifting of the routes. Page 10 has the trust fund report. So the debt service ratio for September is almost the exact same as it was for October, 6.64. I mean, for August, August was 6.65. Page 11 is the pension summary. That shows a decrease of $621,000 for the month and $6,571 for the year. Again, that is that retirement that one of the gens was discussing in her analysis of the plan. That was a retirement payout, was the majority of that, the vast majority of that, and that happened in September. So the September balance obviously decreased to just over $3.1 million. And the last page is just for informational purposes only, and Steve's not even here for it. So hopefully you got a copy of this. This is the August OPEB summary report. Steve had requested I stop putting that in there. I had it last month, and I apologize for not putting it in there. I forgot it was in August. It's every 3 months, and it gets sandwiched in with the pension report, pension trust fund, so I missed it last month. I'm looking for it. There it is. So that's just really for informational purposes. And as Steve has alluded to earlier in his report, we're pretty much in good shape for the budget. Him and I just gotta meet over it a little bit for the next meeting, but it's in a good draft position, so ready to go.
Very good. Any questions of Dan? No, thank you. Okay, anybody have any reports regarding town council actions that might relate to Bristol County Water Authority? Moving on, back to Steve.
Yes. Okay, so this next agenda item is for so information and discussion, just to bring the board speed on the changes to lead service line replacement program that both on the federal and state level, that there's been some significant modifications made to the legislation in that regard. When I first came here, one of the first things I asked, Mike, was like, how many lead service lines do we have? And we're not like Providence, it's a full lead line. I mean, what they have in Bristol County is just, it's a lead gooseneck connector, it's a galvanized, but that's still considered a lead service line. But they were working on an assumption they had about like 70 of them on the public side. So you can see as we talk about this, that's changed a little bit. But one of the things that we're required to do, all water suppliers are required to do, is develop a service line inventory on both the public side and the private side of the service line. And I attached a figure as to what's considered public. Public is basically from the main to the curb stop, and private is from the curb stop into the house. That's to be done by October 16th, 2024. Once that's completed, the inventory is submitted to the state and posted on the DOH website. The inventory is also to be posted on the water suppliers website. Now we already have that. And I think Mike has previously shown that to the board, where they have nodes, and the customer can actually click on their location, and it will tell them, what their material is on the public side and private side. So we're pretty far ahead in the game on that. Although we still have some research to do on some private side pipelines. Now the definition of a lead service line replacement has been modified such that the entire length shall be replaced, including the goosenecks and other lead connectors, and service lines made of galvanized steel or iron that were downstream of a lead gooseneck is now considered a lead service line. So what that means is, now Bristol County went about what they're doing was removing on the public side for years. But now with the new legislation, that if this galvanized on the private side, that's still considered lead and needs to get removed. And also, if there's no documented evidence supporting what the material is, if it's definitely non-lead, if you can't determine if it's not lead, then it's considered lead. So it's incumbent upon us to research the dickens out of all our materials that we have, going into past records. And I can tell you that was one of the projects that Sue Andrew was working on almost the first last year that she was here entirely, going back into these old ledger books, trying to make a determination of what, particularly on the private side, what the material was made out of. A lot of information also came about when Bristol County changed out the meters. They were able to determine, if there was lead, coming into the home. So that was also very part of that whole inspection process. The Rhode Island law states that the water supplier shall replace the entire lead service line if lead is present in the public side. Again, like I said, over the past 10 years, DCWA has been actively replacing the service lines on the public side with the presence of lead gooseneck connectors. But with the new requirement, we have all these other pieces remaining on the private side. What's not clear though is like who's responsible for paying for all of this.
And would the work be done, it's going to be done on the private property?
Yeah.
And is it going to be done within the home itself?
No,
Okay, so it's
just at the meter connection. Well, at the meter connection, right.
okay.
Would there be any special financing available to pay for this?
We're not there yet.
When did you say this is supposed to be completed?
The inventory is by 2024. Okay. So, when a lead service line is identified, the water supplier shall provide a written notice to the property owner and tenants of the building. The water supplier shall also provide a filter pitcher or other point of use device. So we're buying filter pitchers, and for those that will be providing information, it's a pitcher that has a cartridge that's
It just goes in the line?
no, just for drinking water. You know, like a Brita filter pitcher. Right. The water supply shall develop and submit to the DOH lead service line replacement plan. Water suppliers may be able to obtain assistance with funding through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank to the extent that funds are available. Now, I've heard a lot of money coming in from the federal government. I've had discussions with the Infrastructure Bank, and currently all that money is going towards disadvantaged communities, which we don't qualify for. And then water supply shall complete the replacement of all public and private lead service lines in its service area within 10 years. And what we've done so far. So today we've completed 85% of the total inventory. We've got about 2,400 services remaining to be researched. And what do we have so far? So we have 26 services with lead goosenecks on the public side requiring full replacement. We have 38 services with lead goosenecks and J piping on the public side that only require us to do on the public side because on the private side, we've identified that it's a non-lead, non-galvanized, it's either a copper or plastic material. So that's kind of like that's about the 70 that we thought that we were going to deal with when I first got here. Through our research, there are now 263 services with galvanized piping on the private side that were previously served by a lead connector on the public side. And as we go through the research, that 263 number, may change.
How many total service connections are there in our system, approximately?
15,500.
Okay, so right now we have some, maybe 13,000, 12 to 13,000 that have, that you know about, and this is the result of based on that 12,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very low percentage of the system that has any issues associated with it.
Correct.
Is that definitive that the 26 and the 38 and 263, so call it 300 is our exposure?
For now,
And
yes.
when you say for now, does that mean that we haven't thoroughly investigated?
Yeah, we're
Based on the new parameters?
Correct. We're 85% done. We have 2,400 left.
But so out of the 12,000 that you know about, about 300 known issues.
Yeah.
And so it's a very whatever that percentage is. I usually can do that quickly. Come on, Mike, tell me.
Our exposure is low compared to
Yeah.
other communities.
And is there any logic behind where those 300 are clumped?
Not really, right? We've been doing that, we've been doing cluster analysis.
Yeah, we do have them spatialized, so we know exactly where they are and how.
No, I didn't mean where they are, but whether you say most of them are in Warren or Barrington or Bristol, they're
They're in the
scattered.
older parts of the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the
So
way,
how long will it take to figure out the remaining 2,400?
We hope that it won't be 2,400 because we will get a point to a diminishing returns where age takes over and it doesn't become a standard components of construction. So we hope to, so some systems where they have no records are creating some sort of algorithm, predictive analytic to determine that. We're gonna, based on this being number being somewhat manageable, we're gonna try to back into that manually.
What do you mean, back into it?
We're gonna do research and we're gonna hit a date and we're not gonna find any of these components anymore. And as of a certain date, you're allowed to say, this was a non-standard material for our system and anything newer than this is non-lead.
Right, because at the end of construction, when lead was no longer used. So if you can determine the age of that the home was built, then you can say that there's no lead there.
So how confident are you, you're budgeting $2 million in the capital improvement project category for the next 2 years? Are you 80% confident that'll cover it or 50% confident?
I'm not 80%. I don't think that, I don't believe that 263 is gonna change dramatically. And, we know the 26 and the 38 are really our last really remnants of lead in the public side. That's it. And those are the ones that we would like to focus on removing for next construction season. That way we can say, we have no lead components on our side. What we just haven't, what we need to do is determine how the process with removing those pieces that are on the private side.
well, based on what's written in this memo, it appears that the burden is on, the burden for paying for this is on the agency.
Well,
I don't know yet.
yeah.
I don't know yet. I gotta look at the law. The law's a little contradictory. I think that's something that needs a little more examination.
Because it says that the water suppliers may be able to obtain this assistance, which, with funding, which Steve had mentioned, it says water suppliers shall complete the replacement of all public and private lead service lines. The only way you're gonna get that is if the public agency is the one replacing it.
But there's another phrase in the statute that says contingent upon available funding, each water supplier shall complete the replacement of all public and private lead line services within 10 years of the effective date of this section. There's some contradictory.
Yeah.
So I want to look at this a little bit more and maybe come back and talk a little bit more about that. I also suspect that.
Well, in any case, the first group is only like 2.5% of all the services of having an issue.
I mean, the first part, obviously, you have to identify what the problem is. And that's the first deadline.
Steve, if a homeowner had the private insurance to cover replacement of the piping on his side, could that insurance be used to pay for this? If that private...
Private insurance will cover, if they purchase the private insurance and if the pipeline bursts.
Are they gonna burst?
Machine.
A galvanized line will eventually
Was
burst.
there a concern at one time that solder and copper tubing was a contributor?
Yeah, that's not true. Yeah. It doesn't, so all this work on the water supply and dealing with lead service lines, but it still does not address any lead solder issues in the homes.
We'll take care of ourselves.
That's where we want to take care of our side. We need to be mindful that the law is putting the burden also to come up with a plan to address the private side as well. Yeah.
There's no doubt after that, they'll say that the glue on the PVC was a contributor for something. Something.
Several years ago, there was a place in, I don't recall, in Barrington, where there was a line going in and it jumped all the houses and we didn't know where the meters were or what was in there. Has that been resolved or is it part of this? I don't recall where that group of homes was.
That condition exists in a couple different spots that I know.
I recall we discussed Barrington
Yeah,
someplace.
one in Barrington just recently resolved itself through the severance and installation of a well. But there are others that, somebody ran a extension cord out the back window to a relative's house at some point in time. I don't think they've all been remedied as of right now.
But would that fall into this?
Most of those, I believe, are not those type of components. They're newer components. So like copper, plastic.
Well, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Next item is, do we have a need to go into executive session? No. Next scheduled meeting, there's a memo in your packet regarding the next meeting. Stephen?
Yes, I had presented a similar type memo last year, just the way the scheduled meetings fall. Currently we have November 15th and December 13th as scheduled board meetings. Proposing that November 15th be reserved for the Finance Committee meeting to review a draft of the budget. And then move the December board meeting up 1 week to December 6th. Then there'll be a full board meeting, presentation of the budget as well at that time.
When will the November board meeting be held?
There would not be a November board
Okay.
meeting. Well, if we did the November board meeting, that's like 2 weeks from today almost.
No.
So make a motion that we accept the director's recommendation for meetings.
Second. Have a second? Was that a second?
Yeah, it was, sir.
All in favor of changing
More explicit.
December board meeting and not having a board meeting in November, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Are we having the same 5 o'clock time?
5 o'clock, yes. Finance Committee?
Now a motion to adjourn?